Hey everybody, Edo here, and today I want to talk about the growth mindset. Now, it's a little bit different than the stuff I usually do on the channel, but I promise you I am going to relate it to Kickstarter and board games. But basically, in our kids' school this year, and I think last year as well, there's been a big focus on the growth mindset and the idea that your brain is a muscle and it's something that you can improve, grow, and change. I did a little research online as well to round it out, and it appears that this is based on work by Carol Dweck, and as part of Mindset, the New Psychology for Success. But the idea here is that, as you're growing up and thinking about things, you're often taught that you can get stronger, you're going to grow bigger, you can improve your skill, your dexterity, but you sort of have this fixed intellect. A lot of that's tied to the idea of IQ, right? That you're basically as smart as you are going to be or as capable as you are going to be. But in fact, a lot of success comes from your attitude and your approach and how you think about things. And I think it is really important. And it's this idea that you can train your brain, you can work your brain, you can improve your brain, much like you would doing that to get faster, and you can get smarter and stronger. Now, whether or not you agree with this idea that you can get smarter, for sure, having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset is a big deal. So to get a little bit more specific, if you believe your intelligence is static, oftentimes people are going to, in effect, look to define and understand what their success and strengths are, and then they are going to try to prove it and show it and sort of not try new things or get out of their comfort zone. And this is broken down into some different categories. On the other hand, with a growth mindset, you're going to look at those same challenges, those same obstacles, and think about them differently. And I really do think this is a key thing to be introspective about and think about when it comes to being a designer, a publisher, a Kickstarter creator, an individual, right? So just going through them, right? Somebody with a fixed mindset will come to a challenge, and if it seems too challenging, perhaps would avoid it. But, somebody with a growth mindset embraces challenges as opportunities to do new things, to fail fast, and learn, right? So to bring that to games, that might be designing out of your comfort zone, or in fact, running a Kickstarter when it looks like it's becoming more and more challenging. One of the things I'll be talking about in my next hot topic, Kickstarter hot topics, is everyone continually talking about how 800-pound gorilla or big companies are using Kickstarter and how that makes it harder for the little guy to make their campaign or fund their game, and that maybe they're going to just avoid that. Like, should I launch? That other company's doing a big thing, and that other company's, what am I going to do, right? Rather than looking at that as a blocker, you want to look at that as a challenge that you can overcome, think through, how can you speak to that audience, how can you think about how to address and participate with this growing Kickstarter ecosystem, even though that might mean there are a bunch of big sharks in there as well, right? So it's just your attitude, right? This is all about your attitude and how you think about things. Along the way with challenges is you have obstacles. Obstacles are like challenges, but the sense is you've taken something on and now it gets hard, and do you give up or do you keep pushing and persist despite setbacks, right? Despite the fact that your campaign failed, are you going to try again? Despite the fact that something about your game, you did a new rev and this design isn't working out and no one likes it. Are you going to go and push and try to make better, or are you going to just sort of assume that was my best, I tried my hardest, now I'm done? And some of these sound like the kind of things you hear in startup mentality, fail fast. These are all things you've heard about, being an entrepreneur. But I really do believe that some of it is this idea that I can get better. Trying and training and working and experiencing is going to actually make me more capable, despite whatever hand I was dealt at the start of my life, right? That you can actually learn, improve, and gain skills when it comes to intellect and wisdom. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, maybe we could have a discussion about the difference between intellect and wisdom, right? But just that approach and that attitude. And along the way, I'm just going through these different categories that come up in the discussion. And this is, you can imagine why this is so important when you're talking to second graders and third graders and fourth graders, right? Who think they're not the smart kid or whatever. Effort is something that leads to mastery, right? The idea of work in training when it comes to something having to do with your brain is actually fruitful and effective versus, hey, versus if you said, hey, if you do 10 push-ups a week and then 20, then 30, then 40, you'll actually get better and stronger and more capable, and it'll improve your life, right? So again, in the context of little kids, don't just say, I'm bad at math, I can't do it, it's not worth the effort, I'm never going to be good at it. No, doing actually makes you better. Working, putting the effort in, the time, the consideration will make you more capable and will make it more easy for you. When it comes to Kickstarters, for example, it's not always about doing a huge, gigantic take over the world Kickstarter. Sometimes just putting the work in, gaining the experience, learning the system actually improves and helps you move forward, right? And I think even in the context of designs that don't feel like they're coming together, doing the work of doing the cycles really helps you succeed at it in the future. And I think that's important. Here's a huge one. And, I think challenges, obstacles, effort's really important. Another one that comes up all the time, and I think this is where people struggle so much, is around criticism, right? Somebody with a fixed mindset is going to ignore useful, critical feedback. And somebody with a growth mindset, somebody who's looking to succeed, better themselves, better their projects, better what they're doing, is going to be receptive to feedback. When you're working with and seeing designers, new designers and old designers, you almost instantly know which ones are looking and able to handle criticisms and which don't. Now, that isn't to say somebody can't be successful if they're not willing to handle criticism, but for sure, if you want to grow, learn, and get better, being able to deal with and effectively accept that criticism is really important. Play quite a bit of League of Legends, a little less now, but I like it. And if you follow, the dialogue, there's all this toxicity and negativity when playing in games, people blaming other people, getting angry, it was your fault, like all this blame. When practically, it really is, everyone should be looking at what's going on as an opportunity to improve their play, understand the team dynamics and everything. So I think, being able to handle criticism of a design, being able to handle the criticism of a failure, being able to, stay connected with people who aren't necessarily the nicest to you is a big part of growing and becoming more and more successful. And it's really an area that almost everyone could get better at, as including myself. So last, and I think this one's important too, and it's really telling to me that this is included in this list, because you see it all the time in board game publishing. Very much board game publishers are really supportive of each other, engage. It doesn't feel like a cutthroat competitive space. However, there is a category which is the success of others, which I see people failing at lots. And again, with a fixed mindset, the success of others, you feel threatened by the success of other people. This group did so well, they did that, how did they do it? Exploding kittens, what's that about? Ruining Kickstarter, oh, they don't deserve their success. Why did that silly little card game with no personality, the art's terrible, I don't get it, yada, yada, yada. Negative, negative, negative. And what somebody with a growth mindset will do is look at that for lessons. Well, what was successful? Why did it work? What don't I know? What's the gap between my perception of what happened and what actually happened? Like, figure it out and be inspired by the success of other people. Be inspired by people who are leading the way and succeeding in places you're not and growing. Maybe you'll catch up to them, maybe you won't. But if you're willing to let other people's joy and success bring you a sense of joy and success, you're going to, generally speaking, be happier, and I do believe more successful. That's a skill that you want to grow and push over time. So really, the difference here, what you're talking about is saying, I want to continue to grow and achieve and learn, right? I'm going to embrace and take on challenges and hard situations. I'm going to persist and push through obstacles. Work and hard work leads to improvements. I'm going to be receptive and learn from criticism, and I'm happy when other people are happy, and I'm going to be inspired by and learn from their success and or failures, depending on the situation. I wouldn't have done this video if I didn't really believe that, despite the fact that it was just some event in that I saw my kid's school, right? Like, this is highly valuable learnings for somebody who's an entrepreneur, who's a designer, a publisher, a creator, and I really do think it's worth thinking through and considering and being introspective of. I haven't read the book. It's certainly available, and I'm sure it does a better job working through all this than I did, but I absolutely wanted to share this. So, have a growth mindset. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.